Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And I'm going to take you all on a journey across and around planet Ocean. Now, my father, Captain Jacques-Yves Cousteau, invented scuba diving and myriads of other inventions to further his explorations and to continue sharing with all of us and with all of you, perhaps in your childhood, images of another world. Now, this made him very conscious of the damage that we are doing to the environment, and he dedicated his life to conservation. He inspired me to become a diver and a conservationist, and to seek always new ways, innovative ways of protecting our planet, of protecting that pale blue dot for future generations. For several reasons as well, that go into the philosophy of conservation, but that would make another topic in itself, I believe. So let's go on this journey. The first stop on this journey is Raja Ampat in Indonesia. Here, there are over 1,000 species of fish, over 1,000 islands, and more than 97% of the coral diversity in the world. This is the throbbing heart of the ocean when it comes to diversity. And it's a protected area. This area, among others, marine protected areas, are what conservationists consider to be the last sanctuaries of life on our planet, because we are reaching a point where everything else that hasn't been protected consciously is being destroyed. The next step on our journey takes us to another of these sanctuaries. I don't know if you can guess from the image. This is the Galapagos. The Galapagos Islands, which I visited last year to make a film about free diving and breath hold diving and shedding the equipment of scuba and our fears of some animals in order to reconnect with nature and to find what is that missing link that we've lost so long ago that disconnects us from nature and creates all the global issues that we see today. So talking about freediving, well, the microorganisms that are in the surface layers of the ocean, here in the Galapagos, but also everywhere else in the world, the plankton produces more than half of the oxygen that we're breathing right now. So I'd like to do a little experiment with you, if you don't mind. I'd like to show you some imagery of a free dive, a breath hold dive. It lasts about 37 seconds, and I'd like to ask you, if you feel confident in your skill, to hold your breath during the time of the next video. Please don't pass out. Here we go. So this is free diving in the Galapagos. Every time we put our face underwater, this is the kind of thing that we would see. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of sharks. Galapagos is known to have the highest biomass of sharks in the world. I don't hear anything. I guess that means you're all holding your breath. I see a lot of pale blue dots. Are you guys all turning blue? Okay. We're almost done, and you can breathe. 4 months after making this film, not the one you saw, but the one about freediving, which came out actually this week, the Ecuadorian authorities intercepted a poaching fishing vessel inside the Galapagos Marine Protected Area that had on board, and I apologize for the graphic image, but had on board over 1,000 sharks, all finned. They're destined to produce shark fin soup in Asia, and the shark liver extract is used in cosmetics and for food supplements. So when you come home tonight, please check your cosmetics for squalene, because most of the squalene used today comes from shark livers. So let's leave this bittersweet Galapagos behind us. And I hope you've had a sense right now that conservation is both effective and fragile. It doesn't take much to go from having the highest biomass of sharks in the world to having nothing but a plain rock. The next step in our journey takes us to Greenland. This is the Greenland ice sheet. It's about 2.5 kilometers thick of ice. It holds the historical records and the future of the ocean. Here, at the East Grip Research Station, a team of international scientists is actively researching how the climate has changed by drilling cores through the ice, understanding climate change. And I'm going to share with you their main messages that they shared with me last year. The first main message from Dr. Jim White here is that we've already baked into the ocean system, by the energy we've released through the burning of fossil fuels, we've already baked in a 13-meter sea level rise. Even if we stopped emitting CO2 today, the sea level would rise by 13 meters, but we don't know how long this will take. And the ice records, although they show that these changes can be very abrupt, don't have the resolution to tell us on a scale of how many years they happen. In other words, brace yourselves because water is coming your way. So become a scuba diver today is not a bad choice. Oh, sorry. Oh, got a little ahead of myself there. We're going to the next destination on our journey, which is Papua New Guinea, staying on the topic of climate change. Here in Papua New Guinea, a mysterious volcano, a sunken volcano, releases pure CO2 bubbles, acidifying the seawater at a pH level expected for the end of this century. And a team of researchers from the French Institute for Development Research have a message of hope based on their research there. It seems that these corals of Papua New Guinea were able to adapt, to acclimate in one lifetime to the acid conditions. Not only is this a message of hope for climate change, because it seems that these corals are able to survive at least the acidity component of it, because obviously the temperature is what's really getting to the corals. But it also lifts a corner of the veil on the very mechanisms of evolution and how changes can occur within one lifetime. And that's something that, to go back to Darwin has anchored us through the philosophy that came after his work, has anchored us in the belief that we cannot change things in our lifetimes. We just have to keep going as usual, and maybe our descendants and their descendants will change something. Well, I hope he was wrong, and epigenetics seems to show today that there are other pathways of evolution. But in any case, we need to change our role in nature today in order to avoid these global issues. The last step of our journey takes us to Hawaii, where the World Conservation Congress took place last year. And, of course, I couldn't help myself but show you sharks. More sharks. A lot of people are afraid of sharks, these beautiful creatures. But I'll tell you what scares me more than sharks. It's what we're doing to the ocean. Climate change, overfishing, and plastic pollutions are devastating marine life worldwide. And specifically on plastic pollutions, today we know that a third of commercially sold fish contain plastic. And about 80% or 90%, no, it's 80% of tap water, sampled tap water worldwide contains microplastic as well. So this pervasive problem of plastic is not dissimilar to some kind of invisible oil spill, where the plastic we throw into the environment breaks down into smaller pieces that we then end up eating. Last note on that topic of plastic pollution. Today, unfortunately, if you take plastic and you recycle it into textile, the first time you wash those clothes, the microfibers are being released into the environment. So the recycling process today actually accelerates the uptake of plastic into the natural environment under its microscopic form. But surely these sharks, these beautiful animals who have been around for 400 million years, deserve better than extinction and becoming a bowl of soup and a face cream. So what can we do about these global issues? Well, conservationists really like the tool of using marine protected areas. They really work. These are areas that you set aside. You decide, we're not going to destroy this place. We're going to leave it, we're not going to fish, we're not going to extract anything, and we can derive some economic activity from it, from tourism, and from the benefit brought by the added fish inside the protected area. But as you've seen, this cherished tool by conservationists is very fragile. The greed of one ship captain will come in and poach everything that's in the protected area. Pollutions, be they of air or water, are transboundary because they're transboundary by nature, cannot be stopped at the borders of a marine protected area. Hopefully, this is something that remote sensing can help us with. The enforcement of marine protected areas, but also the monitoring of pollutions in the ocean. Now, I've been trying to find ways to involve scuba divers in conservation and research for the past 8 years. And this is one of the most recent projects, which is to try to use the divers to collect temperature data from the ocean, a missing piece of the data puzzle. Today, even though we have the bulk temperatures from the high seas, we don't have the granularity at the coastal level where most of life is. Of course, the sea surface temperatures provide some level of information, but we don't know how the thermoclines behave. We don't know how the energy stores and releases energy in these areas and how that affects the weather, the climate, and biodiversity. So together with a project partner, Dan Europe, we're putting together a first deployment phase for this, to deploy high-precision temperature instruments through the diving community to help them be part of the data collection strategy. And this is the kind of product that we'd like to get out of this research, which is three-dimensional, real-time temperature of the ocean. Four-dimensional, I should say, actually. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this journey. And we need to know more about the ocean. We know so little about it, and we need to use that information to protect it better. The Copernicus program and the Sentinel satellites are collecting information about the ocean. And hopefully this information can help to study and to protect the ocean for future generations, but also for life, because we tend to see conservation as it being for us. Why do we conserve nature? Is it just for our benefit? What about just conserving nature because it's there, because it's beautiful, and because it's diverse? Thank you very much for your attention, and it was a pleasure speaking here with you tonight.